A shivering widow at the market gate. The twin suns were setting over the ruined alien city of Virilong. The sky turned a deep purple, and cold winds blew through the broken stone gates. Dust swirled in the air, mixing with the smell of dry food, smoke, and old metal. It was near closing time at the trade market, and most merchants were packing up. Cole, a human trader from Earth, parked his sand rover just outside the main gate. His boots crunched on the cracked ground as he stepped out. He had come here many times to buy and sell tech, water filters, and medicine. The aliens in this city didn't like humans much, but they needed his goods. As he walked toward the gate, he noticed something strange. A woman, an alien woman, was sitting near the side of the gate, wrapped in torn fabric. Her arms were thin. Her hair was full of dust. She held two small children close to her. One of the children was shaking from the cold. The other looked sick. Guards in dark armor passed by and kicked dust at her. One shouted, "Filthy widow! Go die somewhere else!" The woman didn't answer. She just lowered her head and held her children tighter. Cole stopped walking. There was something in the way she sat, something in the way her hands trembled. He had seen suffering before, but this was different. She looked up at him. Her eyes were big, golden, and tired. She didn't speak at first. Then slowly she stood up on weak legs and walked to him. She held one hand out, not to beg for money, but like she was asking for help. "Please," she whispered in broken English. "Please, take me, take my children. Be my mate." Cole blinked. "What?" The woman dropped to her knees. Her children held onto her robes. "I can clean cook," she said, trembling. "I will serve. Just save them. Save them." Cole looked around. People were watching now. Some were laughing. Some looked disgusted. A merchant spat on the ground and said, "Stupid widow, she's cursed. Her mate was a traitor." Cole crouched in front of her. "What's your name?" "Valana," she said quietly. One of the guards came closer and raised his voice. "Don't touch her, human. She's nothing. Her husband was executed for hiding humans during the war." Cole frowned. "That's why you're chasing her off?" The guard snorted. "Her blood is dirty. The children may be half human. No. One wants her here." Cole looked at Valana's children again. Their skin was pale blue, but their eyes looked like his. The older child had a cut on his arm. The younger one had no shoes. Without thinking, Cole opened his coat and removed two wrapped food packs from his bag. He handed one to Valana and the other to the kids. They didn't grab the food like wild animals. They took it slowly, carefully, as if afraid someone would take it back. "Come with me," Cole said softly. Valana's eyes widened. "Truly, I didn't say I'd marry you," he said, "but I won't leave you here." He helped her stand. Her legs were weak, and she almost fell. He picked up the smaller child and guided the others toward his rover. The crowd whispered behind them, but no one followed. Inside the sand rover, the air was warm. He gave them a blanket and more food. Valana sat quietly, holding her children close. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she made no sound. "Why did you say those words to me?" Cole asked after a long silence. "Why ask to be my mate?" Valana looked at him. Her voice was soft but steady now. "Because humans protect their own, don't they?" Cole didn't answer. Outside, night fell. The twin moons rose in the sky, and inside the small vehicle, a widow and her children finally slept without fear, for the first time in a long time. But deep in the city shadows, something else was watching. Something that had been looking for Valana, and now it had found her again. The night was too quiet. Inside the sand rover, Cole couldn't sleep. He sat in the driver's seat, holding a small blaster in one hand. Outside the windows, the alien city lay dark and still, but his instincts told him something wasn't right. In the back of the rover, Valana was curled up with her children, wrapped in a warm blanket he had given them. The younger one slept soundly, but the older child, maybe 5 years old, kept glancing at the window. His small fingers gripped his mother's robe tightly. Suddenly the boy whispered something in his alien tongue. Valana's eyes shot open. She looked at Cole. "We have to go. Now." Cole straightened. "What's going on?" "They found us," she said. Her voice was shaking. "They come at night. Always at night." Before Cole could ask who they were, a low humming sound began outside, like energy pulsing through air. He peeked out the side window. 3 tall figures stood across the street. All were wearing black cloaks, with glowing green visors, covering their faces. No footsteps, no talking, just stillness and that awful hum. "Hunters," Valana whispered. "They don't speak. They just take." Cole grabbed his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and pulled the children close. "We're leaving." "They will follow," Valana said. "They never stop." "Then they picked the wrong man to follow," Cole growled. He started the engine. The sand rover roared to life, and with a sharp turn, they sped away from the city. They drove for over an hour into the open wastelands. Wind blew thick ash across the desert plains, and the stars above blinked faintly behind the haze. Finally, Cole slowed the rover and parked near a broken structure, an old bunker half buried in sand. They climbed down inside. It was cold but dry. Safe for now. Valana sat with her children while Cole stood near the door watching the dunes. Finally, he turned and faced her. "Tell me the truth," he said. "All of it." Valana nodded slowly. "My mate?" He was not alien. He was human. A soldier. He came to our world during the rebellion. He saved me from raiders. I hid him, protected him, and I loved him. Cole sat down across from her. "They called him a traitor?" he asked. "They called me worse," she replied. "When the war ended, your people left. But mine, they punished me. They called me a mate betrayer. They said our children were filth." Cole looked at the 2 sleeping kids. "They don't look like filth. They look like survivors." Valana smiled sadly. "We moved from place to place, always hiding. Then last season, he died. A fever. No medicine. I buried him with my own hands. After that, I had nothing." Cole felt his chest tighten. Her voice wasn't angry. It was empty, like someone who had cried too many times and had no tears left. She pulled out something from under her robe, a chain with a worn metal tag. She handed it to Cole. It was a human military ID tag. "His name was Peter Marson," she said softly. "He told me, if I ever saw another human, to trust him. He said, humans protect family." Cole stared at the tag for a long time. He remembered hearing that name before. Peter Marson had been listed missing during the final retreat. He looked at Valana. "You said you want me to be your mate," he said. "Is it because of what he said?" Valana lowered her eyes. "I said it because I had no other way to save them. I don't expect your love. Just shelter. A name. A home for them." Cole stood up and paced. He was just a traitor. Not a hero, not a father, not someone who should be deciding the fate of a broken family. And yet, when he looked at Valana's eyes, he saw something he couldn't ignore. Hope. Just a little. But real. He sighed. "If I take you with me, they'll come again." Valana met his gaze. "They already are." Cole walked to the entrance, staring out into the silent night. "They want to chase you forever?" he muttered. "Let them try." The sky was bleeding red when the scream came. It wasn't loud, but sharp, full of panic. It came from Valana's child. Cole snapped awake, his hand already on his blaster. He looked over and saw the older child, pointing at the entrance of the bunker with wide, terrified eyes. Shadows moved outside, not walking, floating. "They're here," Valana whispered. "The hunters found us again." Cole didn't hesitate. He scooped up the children and pushed Valana toward the sand rover parked above the bunker. The engine wasn't even warm when he started it. It roared to life with a burst, kicking up clouds of ash. From the rear mirror, he saw them. 4 tall figures in black cloaks were gliding across the desert, their green visors glowing like 6 stars. They made no sound, no talking, no weapons that could be seen, just that awful low hum, and the sense that if they caught you, you wouldn't be found again. Cole pressed harder on the accelerator. "We can't outrun them for long," he muttered. Valana looked out the window. "Go west into the ash fields." Cole frowned. "That's death." "Not if you know the old paths," she said quickly. "I do." He turned the rover west, into the land no one dared enter. Gray skies, black sands, and sharp rocks that cut through tires and bones alike. This was no man's land, no alien's land either. Only the forgotten and the dead lived in the ash fields. But Valana knew the way. Hours passed. The wind howled like screaming voices. The rover's dashboard flashed warnings. Low power, high, filter damage, reduced visibility. Still, Cole followed her instructions. Turn left at the skeleton tree. Go around the glass dunes. Stop before the sun tower's shadow. She knew them all. At last they stopped near a collapsed ridge that looked like part of an old fortress. Cole shut off the engine. No movement behind them. "They won't. Follow us here," Valana whispered. "They fear this place." Cole stepped outside and looked around. "Why?" Valana's voice trembled. "This is where the humans made their final stand in the war. My husband told me. He called it Ashfall Ridge. Your people called it Hell's Border. Too many dead. Too many ghosts. Even hunters fear the souls that never left." The children were silent. Even they understood the weight of this place. Cole found an old shelter carved into the rocks. Inside, it was dark and quiet. Valana laid her children down and let them sleep. Cole finally sat beside her. Dust clung to his face. His hands shook a little, not from fear, but from the rush of surviving again. Then he turned to her. "How do you know this place so well?" Valana looked down at her hands. "My mate brought me here once, before he died. He said if anything happened to him, this would be the safest place to hide. No maps lead here. Only memory." Cole studied her. There was more strength in her than he had expected. "You were more than just his wife," he said. "You were his fighter." Valana smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "He called me his fire." They sat in silence for a while. The night crept in, wrapping everything in cold and quiet. Finally, Cole broke the silence. "Those hunters, what do they want, just you or the children?" Valana's voice grew heavy. "The children, because of what they are. Not full alien, not fully human. The Empire sees them as a threat, a stain. If they live and grow, they may become more powerful than either side." Cole looked toward the sleeping kids. "What if they're right?" he said. "What if they're special?" Valana looked up. Her eyes were soft but strong. "Then someone has to protect them. Someone has to believe they deserve to live." Cole stared at her for a long moment. "I didn't sign up for this," he said finally. "No," she replied. "But you stopped, when no one else did." He stood and checked his blaster. The charge was still good. "Then I guess I keep stopping," he said. "As long as it takes." The next morning began without a sunrise. The sky over Ashfall Ridge stayed the same, gray, cold, and full of ash floating like soft snow. Inside the broken shelter, everything was silent. Cole sat near the entrance watching the still landscape, blaster on his lap. Behind him, Valana gently woke her children. She whispered soft words in her language, brushing dust from their hair and warming their hands with her own. There was tenderness in her touch, something Cole hadn't seen since the war, something rare in a place like this. He watched quietly as Valana opened a small pouch and shared the last of their dry rations. She gave her children most of it. She only chewed on a small corner of bread, even though her eyes showed deep hunger. "Why, didn't you wake me?" Cole asked, turning to her. She didn't stop moving. "You needed rest. You kept watch all night." He looked away, uncomfortable. "So did you." "I've learned to live without sleep," she said softly. "Mothers don't sleep when the world wants to take their children." Her words hit him like a blade, soft but sharp. He stood and stretched, trying to shake off the feeling. "Supplies won't last," he said. "We'll need to move again soon." Valana nodded. Then slowly, she reached into her robe and pulled out a thin necklace. On the chain hung something strange, a curved silver band with glowing blue runes. It shimmered with soft light. "What's that?" Cole asked. She stood, holding it gently. Her hands were trembling. "This," she said, "is a bond mark. My people use it to seal mate pacts. It is given only once, only to one person." She stepped closer and knelt in front of him. Cole's eyes widened. "Valana, I offer it to you," she said quietly. "Not for love, not for romance, but for survival." He stared at her in disbelief. "You're serious?" "Yes. My children are called illegitimate in every colony. They have no name, no rights, no future. But if you take the bond, even as a symbol, they will become part of your blood by our laws. They will belong. You will be our shield." Cole backed up a step, shocked. I'm not ready for that. I'm not even sure what I'm doing here." Valana stayed on her knees. "I don't ask for love, I ask for shelter, for a name that saves them from the hunters, from the empire, from shame." He looked at the children. They were quiet now, watching, understanding more than they should. The older one had his father's eyes, the younger, her mother's calm. "I'm just a traitor," Cole whispered. "Not a protector, not a hero." Valana looked up at him. "You stopped for us. You fought for us. You stayed." He swallowed hard. The war had taken everything from him. His team, his family, his peace. After it ended, he swore he'd never fight again. Never carry the weight of someone else's life, and yet, here he was, protecting 3 lives. One step from becoming something more. "Just a name?" he asked. "A name they can live under," Valana replied. "A name that scares the ones who hunt them." He looked at the silver band glowing in her hands, then at the scars on her wrists, then at the strength in her voice. Cole slowly reached out and took the bond mark. Valana bowed her head low, her forehead touching the ground. "No need for that," Cole said, gently pulling her up. "Stand. If we're doing this, we stand together." She rose, tears in her eyes. Not of sadness, but relief. Just then, a sudden blast shook the ground. Cole's eyes snapped toward the entrance. Smoke rose from a nearby ridge. A signal. Warning, or maybe a challenge. "They've found us again," he said grimly. Valana turned and picked up her children without fear. "Then let's show them what a name truly means." The village didn't cheer when they arrived. It froze. Cole's rover rolled through the dusty path into the settlement of Dusk End Hollow, one of the last mixed colonies in this part of the galaxy, where humans and aliens tried to live side by side. Tried, but suspicion always hung in the air like smoke. People watched from doorways. A few shut their windows. Others whispered, eyes narrowing at the sight of her. Valana stepped out first, holding her children's hands. The moment her feet touched the ground, an old woman spit in her direction. A trader muttered, "Is that her? The widow of the trader?" "She brought half-bloods here," someone else said. "They'll bring the hunters next." Cole stepped out behind them, blaster on his hip, jaw clenched. "They're under my protection." No one clapped. No one welcomed them. Only silence. Valana didn't flinch. She didn't beg. She simply lowered her head and guided her children toward the nearest house. but even the doors there didn't open. Later that night, Cole found her sitting outside the small storage shed they'd been allowed to sleep in. It wasn't even a proper room, just a place where old equipment was kept. Still, she had cleaned the space, laid out blankets, and made it feel like a home. The children were already asleep inside. Valana sat alone, staring at the stars. This place wasn't always like this, she said softly. Years ago, they welcomed my husband here. He helped build their water lines. He fixed their comms tower. He saved their crops during the black storm. Cole looked around the village. Small huts, metal walls, a broken windmill. What happened? They got scared, she said. Scared of change. Scared of blood that didn't look like theirs. When the war ended, the Empire told them to reject people like me, and they obeyed. Cole sat beside her. Still want to stay here? It's not for me. It's for the children. If they can grow here, if they can be seen, if they can just be, then maybe they'll never know the pain I carry. She looked up at him. Will you stay? I said I would, he replied. I don't run. She gave a weak smile. The next day, Valana went to work. She cleaned the old community garden where no one planted anything anymore. She mended broken fences. She offered to help the medic in the clinic, even though no one answered her at first. Every day, she worked. Every day the children helped. Quiet, polite, kind. A few villagers began to take notice. One human woman gave her a small loaf of bread. An old alien man offered her broken tools and said, "Fix these if you can." She did. Cole stayed near the edge of the village, repairing vehicles and helping farmers with machines. His presence kept the angry ones quiet. For now. But peace didn't last. One evening, Valana was walking back to the shed with her children when someone threw a rock. It hit her on the head. She stumbled, blood dripping from her forehead. The children screamed. The crowd didn't help, they just watched. Cole ran to her, lifted her into his arms, and turned toward the people. "Is this what you do now?" he shouted. "Throw stones at mothers and call yourselves survivors?" Silence fell. But then one voice broke it. A child stepped forward, human, maybe 10 years old, and gave Valana a piece of cloth to stop the bleeding. Then another voice, an old alien woman limping, called out, "She helped me last week, fixed my roof for free. She healed my boy's cough," a man said. "She gave me clean water," another whispered. A small ripple began to grow. The elder of the village finally stepped forward. He looked at Valana, her wounded head, and the quiet way she stood tall. "You could have run," the elder said. "But you didn't." Valana nodded. "Running never works. I've run all my life. I came here to stand." The elder looked at Cole. "You stand with her?" "I do," he said firmly. "Then this village will no longer stand against you." That night, for the first time, a neighbor brought soup to their door. Another brought blankets. A child knocked and asked if he could play with Valana's son. Valana didn't cry. She just held her children and whispered, "See? The world is changing. One name, one act, one heart at a time." But far beyond the hills, the hunters still moved, and they had found the trail again. The sky cracked open with fire. It began with a sound, low and strange, like metal groaning under pressure. Then a bright flash lit the night above Dusk End Hollow. Villagers rushed out of their homes, shielding their eyes from the glare. Cole was already moving. He threw open the door of the storage shed. Valana was standing, holding both children tightly. Her eyes were wide, but not surprised. "They're here," she whispered. "The hunters found us again." Cole didn't ask how. He had learned by now these hunters never stopped. They were more machine than flesh, trained, cruel, silent, and they had come for Valana's bloodline. "Stay low," he ordered. "I'll hold them." Valana grabbed his arm. "Not this time. You won't face them alone." Before he could reply, a sharp whine echoed through the village. Then came the explosion. A plasma bolt struck the windmill. It burst into flames and metal shards flew across the settlement. Screams rang out. Chaos broke loose. The hunters descended from the sky in black dropships. 3 of them, silent, sleek, and deadly. The village had no army, only a few blasters. No shields, and Cole. He charged toward the center of the village, firing warning shots to gather attention. "Everyone inside, now!" Some villagers hesitated. Others ran. Children screamed. Lights flickered. The sky was fire and smoke. Then, out of the flames, one of the hunters stepped forward. Tall, cold, green visor glowing in the dark like a ghost's eyes. It raised a weapon, a long energy spear. Cole raised his blaster, but before either could strike, a scream cut through the air, not of fear, but rage. Valana. She came sprinting across the courtyard, holding a sharpened farming blade. Her children were hidden in the shed behind her. Her robes were torn, her feet were bare, but her face burned with fury. "You won't take them," she roared. She swung the blade with wild power. The hunter deflected, but staggered slightly. It hadn't expected resistance from an outcast widow. Another hunter stepped forward, lifting its spear to impale her. But Cole tackled it from behind. They rolled through the dust, and Cole jammed his blaster under the helmet and fired. Sparks flew. The thing collapsed, twitching. One down, but more were coming. Valana turned to face 2 more hunters. This time her arms didn't shake. She moved like someone who had waited years for this moment. They fought side by side, Cole and Valana. Not as protector and protected, but as equals. Her strikes were fast, learned from a husband who had trained her. Cole's shots were precise, years of war still in his blood. Villagers watched from windows, stunned. The woman they had once thrown stones at, now defending them with fire in her eyes. Then the oldest child, Valana's son, ran into the square. "No!" Valana shouted. The boy had picked up a small dropped blaster. He fired once, missing the hunter, but drawing its attention. The hunter turned, too fast. Cole wasn't close enough, but Valana was. She leapt in front of her son. The energy spear hit her side. She screamed, but didn't fall. She stabbed upward with her blade and drove it into the hunter's chest. The machine dropped. Valana collapsed. Later, after the fires were put out and the last hunter destroyed, the villagers gathered. Around the wounded, Valana lay on a bed made from old blankets. Her side was burned, her skin torn. She was barely conscious. Her son sat beside her, holding her hand. Cole stood over them, blood on his arms, dust on his face. "She'll live," the healer said, "but she needs rest." The elder of the village stepped forward. He looked at Cole with new eyes. "You risked your life for her," he said. Cole nodded. "She risked hers for all of you." The elder turned to the crowd. "She is no longer cursed. She is our shield." One by one, villagers came forward. A gift of fruit, clean cloth, bandages, words of thanks. Valana stirred, her eyes opened. She saw her children smiling. She saw Cole still standing there. "You stayed," she whispered. "I always will," he replied. And above them, for the first time in weeks, the stars began to shine. But something else stirred in the black beyond, not hunters, but eyes watching. The Empire now knew. The widow had survived, and she was no longer running. The wound on Valana's side had nearly closed, but the wound in her heart still bled quietly. A week had passed since the hunters attacked Dusk End Hollow. The village was healing, its windmill replaced with a solar dome, homes rebuilt and walls reinforced. Yet despite the calm, a quiet tension sat in the air like dust. Everyone knew. This peace would not last. Not with what Valana had become. Not with what she represented. Inside a newly built home, gifted by the villagers, she sat near a window, watching the children play outside. Her oldest was helping rebuild the outer fence. The younger one laughed while trying to chase a butterfly with 2 small feet. Their joy was soft but real, and in the center of it all, watching them with a protective eye stood Cole, still human, still stubborn, still there. Valana touched the edge of the bond mark around her neck, the glowing silver band that had changed her fate. She rose slowly and stepped outside, the cool wind brushing her skin. The villagers nodded as she passed. No more spitting. No more hate. They didn't all love her yet, but they had begun to respect her. She reached Cole, who was fixing a solar panel. "You should rest," she said. He didn't look up. "I'm not tired. You always say that. I always mean it." Valana smiled faintly. "The children want to know if we're really a family now." That made him pause. He looked at her carefully, like measuring words he hadn't used in years. "I don't know what a family is anymore," he admitted. "I lost mine during the war. Since then I've just been surviving, trading, moving, never staying. You stayed here. I stayed for them. For you." Valana looked into his eyes. There was no fear there. No running. Just the truth. "I never asked you to love me," she whispered. "But now, I think I do." He stepped closer, placing a rough hand on her shoulder. "I thought I'd never feel anything again," he said, "but then you looked at me like I was something more than a weapon." "You are more," she said. "You are ours." Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out something old, a small wooden ring carved with human symbols. It had cracks. It was plain, but it was strong. "I was saving this," he said, "for a day I never thought would come." Valana blinked, surprised. "What is it?" "A promise," he replied. "The human kind." He slid it gently onto her finger. She stared, added in silence, then held his hand tightly, and for the first time since her husband's death, she felt something she thought had died with him. Hope. The ceremony wasn't grand, just a few people from the village standing in a circle under the stars, a warm fire, a few flowers. Her children wore clean robes. Cole wore a fresh jacket. And Valana, she wore her old wedding sash, cleaned, repaired, and glowing softly under the moonlight. The village elder spoke the blessing. "Let this human and this widow become one fire. Let their bond be both shield and sword. Let no hunter, no law, no past break what has been built today." Cole placed the ring again, this time in front of all. Valana raised her hand, placing the bond mark on his neck. Both human and alien traditions, together. And when they kissed, it wasn't just a symbol. It was a declaration that love was still possible, that the galaxy hadn't broken them, that bloodlines, races, or scars couldn't stop two hearts from choosing each other. The villagers cheered. Even the children danced, but far above in the silence of orbit something stirred. A satellite blinked, a signal was sent, and miles away, in a dark warship that floated like a black dagger in space, a voice spoke. "The widow has married the human. Activate Protocol 7. Days passed. Cole and Valana built their new life, slowly and carefully. Her children began to learn human language. Cole began to learn hers. Together, they planted a new garden. Together, they hunted for food. Together, they laughed. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Valana asked, "Do you think our story will last?" Cole stared into the flames. "What do you mean?" "I mean, the hunters are quiet. The Empire is quiet. But they saw us. They know." Cole nodded slowly. "They'll come again." She looked down. "Then I should never have bonded you. I've only brought danger." He lifted her chin gently. "You didn't bring danger. You brought meaning." She blinked. He smiled faintly. "Before you, I was just breathing. After you, I started living." Tears touched her cheeks, and then the child's voice screamed from outside. "Something's falling from the sky." They rushed out. In the distance, a long black object pierced the sky and crashed into the valley, metal and flame spinning into the ground. Cole's eyes narrowed. "Drop pod." Valana's voice cracked. "They're here." But this time it wasn't hunters. It was a message. Inside the pod was a single data pad and a wrapped parcel. Cole read the message aloud. To the widow and the human, we have seen your defiance. We have seen your strength. Many across the galaxy whisper your name now. The widow who refused to die and the human who gave her a second life. There are others like you. Hiding, running, hoping. If you are willing, help them, train them, guide them, teach them that family is not blood, it is choice. We will watch, and when the time is right, we will rise. Cole looked up. Valana was already opening the parcel. Inside were seeds, medicine, and a handwritten map showing the locations of hidden families scattered across the stars. Cole stared at her. Valana smiled. It's not just about surviving anymore, she said. He nodded. No. It's about rebuilding. That night, the widow stood beside her husband under the stars, not as a victim, not as a curse, but as a leader, as a mother, as a wife, and their story became legend. Not because it was perfect, but because it was true.